Hey guys, it's Dan here from the Corporatethief, and you're listening to the Mixtape Marketing Podcast, episode number 5, Why You Need a Fan Email Newsletter. Okay guys, this podcast is going to be similar to the type of podcast that I did in episode 4 on why you need a website. It's a very similar format for this podcast, and I should suggest that you go back and check that podcast out. There's some great info in there on why you need a website, and this is the follow-up to it on why you need an email marketing newsletter. So basically, to start this off, what is email marketing? Email marketing is permission-based marketing. It gives fans or anyone who comes to your site and signs up to your email newsletter the permission to send them information or send them sales letters on when you're promoting your music. It gives you the right to contact them, and they opt in to your marketing message or your newsletter. And the type of tools that you can use for this, like there's Aweber, which I use. There's MailChimp, which is another great software that I've used as well. I use it as well, but my main newsletter is on Aweber. I just created a MailChimp account just to check out, because what MailChimp is doing now is really cool as well. It's a really nice website too. I'm just used to Aweber, and I'm just sticking with that because that was the first one I did. And there's Constant Contact, and there's other ones as well, but the two I would recommend is Aweber and MailChimp because they're the both I've used. Bearing in mind that if you want to set up a newsletter, an email newsletter, a fan newsletter today, I have a tutorial on how to do that, and you set it up really quickly. It's like with Aweber, and I show you how I set it up. And if you want to see that tutorial, just go to my website, go to the resource page on my site, and there's a little link there that'll show you how to set up an Aweber account, and it's really easy. And they give you the first month's trial for $1, and it's really easy. After that, it's $19 a month. But it's totally worth it, and I'm going to go through the reasons why it's worth it in a minute. Bearing in mind that that tutorial link on my website is a referral link to Aweber. I will get a commission at no extra cost to you, but I do use the service, and I can vouch for the service that Aweber gives, and I've never had a problem with it. So cheers if you do go through my referral link. I'm going to go through the reasons right now on why you need a fan newsletter. Obviously, in the previous podcast, I spoke about why you need a website and the implications of depending on like social media sites. So let's say like everyone has a Twitter page. Twitter is a good comparison now to this. Let's say you have 4,000 followers on Twitter, and each of those followers have 1,000 followers. They see so much activity in their feeds all day that tweet that you put out mightn't get to those fans. So you have to keep tweeting all day to really get any kind of traction with your followers on Twitter. With a fan newsletter, if someone comes to your website and subscribes to your website, to your newsletter, they have instant fan connection with you. All the top artists out there, if you go to any of the top artists, Lil Wayne, Drake, Justin Timberlake, any of these big musicians, they all have a fan newsletter, and this is to get updates from that artist. So let's say anyone who's subscribed to my website, obviously I send people my articles and all my music marketing tips and stuff like that. That's a really cool way of doing it. Obviously, if you set up a fan mail list, you could go back and send them to your reviews on mixtapes and music that you like. You can send them to how you're going about making a mixtape. You can send them all these kind of updates about you. Email is much more personal than a tweet or a Facebook post. It's They come to your site and they sign up to your newsletter. So basically they're saying, hi, I'm a fan now. Tell me about your music. Tell me about what you're getting up to. Their email is a very targeted way of connecting with people. People only sign up to something if they're interested in it. And it's up to you to keep the interest with the fans. If you email them once, I see tons of great bands that I've signed up to their email list, like rock bands and stuff that I'm interested in as well. And they only ever seem to email me when they have a show or when their album drops. They don't tell me anything about the process of the tour and how they or updates about the tour and what kind of shows they played. They never tell you anything about how they made the album. They just tell you where to buy it. And this is a terrible way of using email marketing. You should not just use it just to sell stuff or promote stuff that you're selling or t-shirts and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but I think you should also tell people who've signed up to your website, keep it personal, tell them about you, tell them about what you're doing in the studio, when's your mixtape coming out, how you're going about recording your mixtape, tell them how you wrote that song, creating content all the time. Put these stuff on your blog and then send the broadcasts or the follow-up letters to your fans with this content. This is why people subscribe to your website. Social media is so busy, so if you tell people about your album and stuff like that, or on your Facebook page or on your Twitter page or your YouTube, they're just going to see other artists that they've followed, or they're going to see other sites they followed and liked, and they're just going to get distracted. That was the one big point that I stressed in episode 4 of the Mixtape Marketing Podcast, is to keep the focus on you. And we're doing that with email. When people subscribe to you on Facebook, you have to pay Facebook now to get every one of those people who've liked your page to see that post. Whereas if they subscribe just to your email list, you own it. You own that email list. That is your bread and butter, guys. If you want to start selling music online, an email list is the bread and butter. 2 things you need is a website and an email list. Everything else after that you can just find online, but you do not need anything else. Right now you really need a website and a fan newsletter. I noticed that anytime I put a Facebook post or a Twitter post up there tomorrow, I use Buffer app to track it on Twitter, and I see or track it on Facebook as well, and I see very little, like maybe 1 or 2 retweets, maybe 1 or 2 people favorite or comment on it, and I never really get that much traction in it. If I have to be honest, in the last 3 or 4 months, I've cut my Twitter time down to bare minimum. I just found that I was wasting too much time on it. I'd be better off creating content and posting that out than spending time on Twitter, just taking part in conversations that, I don't know, that might even lead to arguments or disagreements and stuff like that on artists. There's a rap chat thing on Twitter, and it's a good place to network, but I don't know. I think I spent too much time on Twitter at the time to justify the return that I got from my time. If I spend that time on taking care of the people that were on my email list, I probably would be in a better position than I am. I just feel that you can waste a lot of time on social media. Really take care of people on your email list, because there are people with their hand up saying, hey, I found your website, I've just subscribed to your newsletter, tell me about your site. There are people who are targeted and interested in your page. They will feel a part of the process of your site. I remember when I just relaunched, I set a goal for myself at the start of the year. I want to increase my fan newsletter subscribers, and I wanted to change my website to a mobile optimized site, and I did both of those already. And I kept telling everyone about, I'm changing this part on my site, and it's going to be mobile optimized. I'm changing the player, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and people were always asking me like, "Oh, when's the new site up?" Do you know, they felt part of the process on your site, and sending emails is a really good way to do that. And when you have um, an email newsletter using Aweber or Mailchimp or any of those uh, softwares, they will remember you. People will remember people who get emails more, because think of it. How many Facebook page posts do you see a day? Maybe 100. You probably see thousands of tweets a day. But how many emails do you get? You probably get from 10 to 20 emails a day, depending on. I get a lot more because I have the site and I have other websites. But any main artist that I follow, like I follow like Alice in Chains, and I follow like Drake and other sites like that. I follow a lot of different types of music and Nine Inch Nails. And I remember I always flick through their sites when I get an email, and it's just a good way of what they tell you about what they're doing when they're making their album, them in the studio. It's really inspiring stuff, and it's the main focus of an email newsletter is to keep people informed of what you're doing and who you are, and then when you come to sell a product, that they're comfortable with purchasing your product. So obviously your product is. It could be a mixtape that's for free download. Even if they're getting for free download, still they're taking action based on the rapport that you have built with them by getting them to sign up to your newsletter, bringing them into your space. That's what it is. It's this invitation into your world and keeping them focused on you. Don't be like those bands that I just mentioned, where that they just set it and forget it. They get people to subscribe and then they don't tell them until they release an album. That's not a way to build rapport with fans. You really need to get them used to coming to your site. That's one of the biggest things that I do with my site. I mentioned before that I promote my articles on in my newsletter because it's an easy way of getting people to come to my site. They already know that I'm a beat maker from the Corporatethief.com, and if I just get them used to coming to my site, they'll become more comfortable. Maybe no one purchases anything on the first visit. That's why it's hard to make ads work. If you set up a site tomorrow and you're trying to sell your album or you're trying to sell your t-shirts and stuff, people just don't come and just buy something straight away. They say on average that it takes like 7 different visits for someone to purchase something from your website, and this is definitely true. I've definitely seen this. But anytime I make a bunch of new beats, or if I created a mixtape, I created a mixtape last year, the Greed is Good mixtape. That was one of my biggest mixtapes that I made, and I learned a lot from that process. Well, one big thing that I learned from was that I got a ton of free downloads from my newsletter subscribers. I've tons of people subscribed to my website. My website's been up for a good long time now, 3-4 years, and I got a load of subscribers to download that mixtape. It's a great thing to fall back on when you built it. Okay, it's tough when you only have you start off tomorrow and you've only built up 20 to 100 followers on your email list, but they'll be way more targeted than your Twitter page. The best thing you can do is when you set up a newsletter is to any followers you have on these sites like YouTube or Facebook or your website or any other social media, all those sites, is to get those people who are on those sites onto your email list, because they can unlike your page. Sure, they can unsubscribe from your newsletter, but they will be way more focused on you when they sign up to your newsletter. I can guarantee you, if I put up 10 beats tomorrow and I tweeted about it a couple of times,